Assalamu alaikum, Surat al-Adiat, Surat 100. The Quran is a miracle, and this surah is a great example of how beautiful the Quran is. And I'm going to share this with you in this video in two steps. First, the message, the meaning of this surah is out of this world. It is like a script for an action scene in a Hollywood movie. And the second step is I'm going to share with you how beautiful the recitation is, and I'm going to actually play recitation and explain a little bit about the beauty of the recitation. To find out more about my programs and learn an applied method to connect with Allah's book intuitively without any technical grammar, go to QuranIntuitive.com. The link is in the description below if you're watching this on YouTube. So, Bismillahir Rahmanir Rahim, wal-Adiyati dabaha. Al-Adiat is one of the many words in Arabic for horses. More specifically, fast war horses. Horses that are meant for battle and that are fast. And because of a specific aspect of this word, the ad at the end, it means it's a handful of those horses. Maybe somewhere between 5 and 10. Dabah is the sound of the nostrils of the horse when they're running, and you could say panting or blowing air in and out of their lungs. That's dabah, the sound of the horse. فالموريات. Al-Muriyat is still those same number of horses. It means that they're creating sparks, like sparks to start a fire. The word qadah means the knocking and the sound of the hooves on the rock as the horse is running. So the typical tukutu, tukutu, tukutu of the galloping of a horse. The sound and the knocking is qadah. فَالْمُغِيرَاتِ صُبَحًا. Mughirat, still this group of horses in a number between 5 and 10. Mughirat is attacking the weak, attacking to pillage and rob. Subh, that's a common word that people sometimes know. Subh means the morning, the early morning. فَأَثَرْنَ, causing. Bihi, with it, meaning in the process. Naqqa means a cloud of dust. So this is setting the scene for this group of horses. It's in the desert. They're hitting the stone with their hooves, and it's causing a cloud of dust. فَوَسَطْنَ bihi, wasata, to come or end up in the middle. Bihi, with it, meaning in this whole scenario. Jam'an, together. So, word for word translation, you have these horses, and these horses, we have a bunch of different aspects. The first thing we know is the sound and the speed. So, I was talking about a script for an action scene in a Hollywood movie. In this first ayah, if you're trying to picture this, where are you? What are you picturing? Fast speed and the sound of the horse panting. So you're picturing yourself on the horse. And you're visualizing and feeling the wind of the speed of the horse. Causing sparks with the knocking of the horse means that, so to speak, the camera is now shifting downwards and you can see the rocks flying by as the horse is galloping, and you hear that sound. In action movies, they tweak the sounds, so they will make you hear different parts of the action based on what you're looking at, and this is the Quran making you listen to different parts of the action depending on where you're looking at. Sometimes, you know, the sound will kind of like become numb in an action scene because the guy got knocked out, for example, and the sound become numb. And then all you can hear, you can no longer hear the shouting and the yelling and the swords. All you can hear is the sound of, I don't know, the woman who's calling something out, or the horse that's whinnying, or, you know, there's a specific sound that they play in that action movie. They play with the sounds to make the action more captivating. This is what's going on here. فَالْمُغِيرَاتِ صُبَحًا. Now, we don't know exactly where we're looking, but it's in the morning. So now we get a little bit more information. It's an attack. They are attacking in the morning. So now we zoom out a little bit and we get more of the setup. We can see maybe how many it is. In the first two ayahs, we don't know how many it is. We know that it's a number, but it's only based on the sounds. Now they're attacking. So maybe you could see the group of horses and the highway robbers or bandits or whatever you want to call them, desert Bedouins attacking, right? You can see how large they are, and you can see that they have their swords and they're ready to attack. Or maybe you can see that in the distance there's a small village or a camp that they're running towards or galloping towards. And it's the morning. When you start seeing the setup of this scene, you were close, zooming in the first two ayahs. Now that you're zooming out a little bit, you get an idea that it's the morning and that this is an attack on a weak village or camp or settlement. Now, أثرن به نقعة. Where do you have to be to see the cloud of dust? You have to be somewhere else. You have to be seeing that, that small group of horses attacking. You have to see them at the distance. So this is exactly what they do in movies. You'll have the attacking group, and then as the camera shifts to show you where they're going and what they're attacking, and as at that moment you see where the sun is and how early in the morning it is, when they've shown you that, the music changes a little bit, and now you go from the other side and you see that same group, but you see them from the perspective of the place that they're going. So now أثرن به نقعة means that this camp, this settlement, this village that they're attacking, now what do they see? They see the cloud of dust at the horizon. And by the way, in the desert, if there's horses or camels galloping through the desert and they make a cloud of dust, you can see that cloud of dust a good 15 minutes before they actually get to you. So there's quite a bit of distance. And now the last ayah, we're looking directly into the action, because wasata means to come in the middle, jam'an together. So this implies that this is now, the same way they do it in Hollywood in action movies. You're not going to see the entire, if it takes a whole 30 minutes for the horses to get from one place to the other, they're not going to show you the whole 40 minutes or 30 minutes or however long it takes. You see how they're attacking, you see from the other side where they're attacking, and then next thing you know, next scene, that's it. The battle has started. And many times, they cut and they cut the shots to make it more captivating. And so here, Allah cuts. The ayah here, the Quran cuts and tells you straight to the next part, where now فَوَسَطْنَا بِهِ جَمَّعًا. They go in the middle. So I was talking about 15 minutes that it takes for the cloud of dust to actually get to you. So that village, that settlement, if the ayah says that they see the cloud of dust, it's causing a cloud of dust, that means that there's some people seeing it. So what happens is that they'll ring the alarm. They'll wake up everybody. This is the morning. They'll wake up everybody. They'll make sure that to call everybody to do whatever they can to prepare whatever form of defense they can prepare. They might not have a lot of swords. Maybe they don't have cavalry. Maybe they don't have any weapons. But they're going to still at least do something. Maybe they're going to grab some spears and stick them in the ground. Maybe they're going to do something to try to prepare themselves for this onslaught of a few horses that are coming. So they're preparing. Next scene, next shot, we should say. Now, that's it. The horses are jumping in the middle of whatever defensive ranks were able to form. The horses are jumping in the middle, jam'an, all together. Now, in military strategy, this is a small number of horses. And, any settlement that you attack, unless it's a tiny caravan or a tiny camp, there's going to be more people that are being attacked than the ones attacking. In military strategy, you don't send everybody in the first, in the first wave. You keep some cavalry and you send some cavalry, or you keep the infantry and you send the cavalry. You shoot arrows. There's strategy. These guys, they don't care. They're going straight, all of them together, all in the middle of of the enemy rank. So now, how this is even more out of this world if you think about the audience for this surah. The audience for this surah 1400 years ago, and then the entire 1400 years since then. Who is the audience for this surah? The audience for this surah are people who have already heard some Quran. The people at the time of the Messenger, sallallahu alaihi wasallam, they had already been hearing his message. They already know this kind of rhyming, rhythmic recitation, sometimes more rhyming and rhythmic, sometimes less, that is recited with a particular intonation of the voice. They're used to this, and they've heard it before. And for any Muslims after that, or for anybody after that hearing the Quran, if they're hearing this surah, they're hearing it after hearing other places and having some knowledge of the Quran. If somebody is not a Muslim and they're listening to this particular surah, that means that they probably have heard Quran before, have heard of Quran, have heard what Muslims believe and what the message of the Quran is. They've heard things of that sort. So let's just take the example of the people at the time of the Messenger of Allah, sallallahu alaihi wasallam, Muhammad. They're hearing this and they're scratching their heads. What happened to don't worship idols? Don't mistreat the orphans? What happened to look at the nations of the past that got destroyed because they didn't believe? What happened to there's a day of judgment, you're going to be held accountable? What happened to all these different things? Does the Quran talk about horses attacking like this? Does the Quran, do you know of any place in the Quran that draws an action scene for you? I don't. This is a singleton surah. This is a special surah where Allah breaks the norm and gives us a message that has nothing to do with the rest of the Quran. It's an action scene. It's a script for an action scene. And it's meant to be oral. It's meant to be recited this way. So the same way that in a movie action scene, they're going to cut the shots to make it more captivating, the same way the rhythmic, actually fast-paced recitation of this part of the surah captivates the audience. And on top of that, the Quran has different topics. The listener is not used to this kind of topic. This is not the kind of topic that they're used to hearing from the Messenger of Allah, Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam. They're used to hearing other things. Rather, the topic that they're hearing here is what they would like to hear. This is the kind of topic that was all over their poetry, because the Arabs of the time of the Prophet were known for spitting poetry, like modern day rap battles. You would have, one guy stands up in their own settlement, and one guy stands up and starts spitting rhyme. And somebody stands up to defend his tribe and starts spitting rhyme. And there's a battle going on, and people huddle around them. And then you have the ones who are really good at it and the ones who are beginners, This is what the Arabs are used to doing. Rapping or poetrying about horses and battles and things like that. And now, this person who's always he's in his own world, talking about religious stuff, talking about Day of Judgment, talking about being a good person and good deeds and bad deeds. Now they hear him, they're scratching their head. What happened to him? What is he? Why is he talking about this stuff? And definitely, the pace of those 5 ayat, would captivate the audience. People would, start huddling. This sounds like a rap battle, like the ones we're doing. Let's listen to what he has. And possibly somebody's trying to look over the shoulders is that really him? When did he start doing this stuff? This is the scenario you can imagine because of just these 5 ayat at the beginning of the surah. And if you know anything about the rules of tajweed, and I'll talk about the recitation in a little bit when I'll play the sound of this recitation, this 5 ayat do not have anything to slow down the melody of the recitation. It's just knocking sounds back to back. There's nothing beautiful, so to speak, about the elongation and melody of the sound. وَالْعَادِيَاتِ ضَبْحًا فَالْمُورِيَاتِ قَدْحًا فَالْمُغِيرَاتِ صُبْحًا فَأَثَرْنَ بِهِ نَقْعًا فَوَسَطْنَ بِهِ جَمْعًا. Now, I didn't do justice to the beauty of the recitation, and that's part of the second half of this video. Instead, I was showing you that it's fast-paced. It's rhythmic, fast-paced to match what is going on. It's an action scene. And so then, now that ayah 5 has been reached, and all this, everything I just explained to you, is drawing a picture of how these 5 ayat at the beginning of the surah are drawing the attention and captivating the audience. Now try to picture anybody who is listening to this at the time of the messenger. They're thinking about themselves and their own horse and how loyal their horse is to them, because the horse goes to battle for them all the time. And if somebody's on a horse going to battle, the horse gets hit and wounded first before the guy on the horse, unless he gets shot with an arrow. So he has these on his mind. Not just that he's picturing the action scene, many of them would be picturing themselves and their own horse. They're thinking about their own horse and the loyalty of their own horse. Ayah 6, the screen goes black. an announcement is made. The flow of the ayat is completely changed. And the topic is completely changed. That's it. Action scene over. And by the way, this was the very beginning of the action. They jump into the middle of the enemy ranks altogether and boom, the screen goes black. They didn't have high-tech devices, so poetry battles is the entertainment that they had. So now listen to the change of flow in the middle of the action, giving that sensation that the creator is saying, movie's over, now you listen to me. والعاديات ضبحا فالموريات قدحا فالمغيرات صبحا فأثرن به نقعا فوسطن به جمعا إن الإنسان لربه لكنود. The flow is completely changed. And the topic, indeed, the human being is so disloyal to his master. So now, not only did this surah captivate and draw the attention of the audience and make people like, whoa, this is what we like to rap about or battle about. Number one, it caught the attention. Number two, it spoke directly to the very feeling and emotion that the person has on their mind and on their heart as they're listening to this. They're thinking of themselves and their horse and the loyalty of their horse. And the next ayah says, indeed, the human being is very disloyal and ungrateful to his master. What a powerful message. And so now let's go ahead and share with you some of the beauty of the recitation of this surah. I wasn't always a Muslim. I grew up non-Muslim, and I grew up listening to music. And if you know anything about music, there's always this favorite song of that singer, favorite song of that group, favorite song of this month, favorite song of, like, if you're listening to music all the time, you have your favorite song and it keeps changing based on who and based on what and the environment and the friends you have and all of this stuff. You have your favorite songs. So the first thing when I became Muslim and I started learning the Quran so that I can recite in my prayers, I listened to the surahs. And Surat al-Adiat, I had no idea everything I just shared with you about the meaning. I read the translation. Surat al-Adiat really caught my attention. I listened to it and I was like, ooh, this is different. The sound of this surah is different. When I first listened to it, and I was listening to surahs so that I chose which surahs to memorize based on how they sounded. And also some of it based on the meaning, because I just became Muslim, so I picked based on the meaning, but also based on how they sounded. So Surat al-Adiyat was my third surah that I memorized after becoming Muslim. And this is not the third to last surah. Al-Fatiha, Al-Ikhlas, and then Al-Adiyat. This is how I started memorizing the Quran. Or actually Al-Ma'un also, maybe number 4. Maybe fourth surah. The sound was just beautiful. I picked it because of the sound. And it sounded very different than the rest of the surah. Or the rest of the Quran, I mean. It was very rhythmic and melodious, the same way that I used to enjoy music before that. So there's no comparison. The way that the Quran sounds beautiful is nothing like the way music can sound beautiful. But the beauty of sound, like if you ask anybody who listens to music, people have different tastes in music. Some people, they like heavy metal. Some people, they like rap. Some people, they like other hip-hop singing. Some people, they like country music. Some people, they like jazz. Some people, they like different styles of music. Some people like a bunch of them. But if you ask anybody, there's always going to be a style of music that they don't like. And that was the case for me too. I didn't like country music at all. So this is also the case here. You're going to listen to this. You might not like it. And that doesn't mean that you're not going to like the entire Quran. When I listened to this surah, it sounded different. I grew up understanding the difference in styles of music, and now I'm hearing different styles of the Quran. And I liked this one. Out of the rest of the surahs of the Quran, I liked the style of this one. And then I found a bunch of other places in the Quran that I also liked based on the sound. But definitely, many different styles of melody and rhythm in the Quran. So let's go ahead and listen to the one I had listened to when I started the surah. It's from Mishari al-Afasi, the very famous, probably the most famous reciter that's available online. Bismillah, let's go ahead and play.
وَالْعَادِيَاتِ ضَبْحًا فَالْمُورِيَاتِ قَدْحًا فَالْمُغِيرَاتِ صُبْحًا فأثرن به نقعا فوسطن به جمعا إن الإنسان لربه لكنود وإنه على ذلك لشهيد وإنه لحب الخير لشديد أفلا يعلم إذا بعثر ما في القبور وحصل ما في الصدور إن ربهم بهم يومئذ لخبير.
To be continued, inshallah. We'll finish the surah, the meaning of the surah, in the same way that I've been doing surahs in this video series, in the next video, inshallah. Barakallahu fikum. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.